Hello Super Friends and welcome to today's action figure showcase, where today we're going to be focusing on the DC Collectibles Designer Series Aunt Lucia Bombshells Harley Quinn action figure. Ain't she sweet? This action figure comes in the typical DC Collectibles white with solid color motif, giant window in the front so that you can see the figure and all of the accessories on the inside, the artwork on the side of the box, and on the back we have more images of other figures in the Bombshell series: Poison Ivy, Wonder Woman, and Batwoman. At first, I wasn't really that sure if I was going to get into collecting these Bombshells figures, but I had a closer look at Harley online and I was like, well, she does look kind of sweet actually, so I figured let's pick this one up, and if I like her, that will determine whether I pick up any future Bombshells figures. So, let's just open her up. Out you come. Now, once Harley's been released from her cardboard and plastic prison, this is the sum total of what you receive in the package. Obviously, you get the Bombshell Harley Quinn herself, you get Harley Quinn's amazingly exaggeratedly huge mallet, you get 4 extra hands that didn't come on the body, a peace sign, an open hand, and 2 grabby hands, 1 for the gun, and 1 also for the mallet, and then you also get her pop gun, complete with little Batman keychain hanging off of the handle. It's a cool idea, but it's executed kinda sloppy. Not a bad amount of accessories to come with the figure in this price range. The extra hands and some extra weapons matches the price point. Now, as for the figure itself, let's just take a closer look and see how the paint apps and the sculpt hold up in comparing her to what she actually looks like in the Bombshells pinups and comic books. Just as a personal note, if I didn't know this was Harley Quinn, I could totally imagine her jumping off the page of a pinup or possibly off the side of a 1940s World War II Spitfire. She completely looks the part. So starting at Harley's head, we can see that her face is painted nice and crisply, which is really good. There's nothing worse than looking at a figure going, oh, the eyes look terrible, because it totally wrecks it, but Harley's looks really nice. And the head is sculpted quite nicely as well. You got all the different tones of yellow in the hair there, and the fiery orange at the bottom of her pigtails, and the hair is made out of a softer rubber, so that's kind of cool too. Harley's fur collared period piece bomber jacket looks really nice as well, with the zipper being a nice gold at the front there, and you got all the little badges on the side, and on the back you've got that patch of the Joker, which is painted nice and crisply, so kudos to them for not having the paint slop there. Moving down, you've got her utility belt over top of her short shorts, and it looks really nice. It's a separate piece. It kind of wiggles around a little bit. Moving down, seeing her black and red stockings, which completely complement each other, and you got the white socks, which break up the black and the red, and then you got the boots on the bottom, which are painted and sculpted quite nicely. And finally, they've even done a pretty tidy job of detailing that little tiny Joker card that's stuffed inside of Harley Quinn's left stocking. Overall, this is a figure that I'm very impressed with and looks very cool to begin with. However, I do want to point out that there are some places that have paint slop, as is unfortunately synonymous with DC Collectibles figures. For me, that's not a big deal. However, for you, if you're into action figure photography and you have the chance to pick between a few of them, you might want to just take a close look at a few of them first and decide which one has the best paint apps before you just take one home. So now that we've had a close-up look at the figure, let's take the next logical step and have a look at her articulation. For articulation, starting at Harley's head, it's on a ball joint, and it can go around 360 degrees and wibble around, and it can look down quite far. However, it doesn't do very much in the looking up department. Harley's shoulders are on hinge swivels, and they can move up about that far, and they can move around 360 degrees, so there's a pretty good range of motion. Harley also has bicep swivels, and they can go around 360 degrees, as well as she has double jointed elbows that can crunch right up, and then she also has wrists that are on hinge swivels as well. So round and round 360 degrees with a fair range of movement back and forth. Harley's chest is on a ball joint, and after you've managed to loosen her up, there's a lot of movement there in that ball joint. Now, although Harley doesn't have any waist articulation, one thing she does have is an ab crunch. And so when you combine that ab crunch, which has a fair amount of movement to it, with the ball peg in her torso, there's a whole lot of forward and a whole lot of backward motion. As for Harley's legs, well, they're attached at the groin by way of a ball joint that's also a drop hinge. So there's a lot of articulation there with her legs. They can go way up, way down, and all over the place. Harley also has articulation at the top of the stockings in the form of a rotation, and she also has double jointed knees that could crunch up just as much as those elbows. When it comes to the ankles, Harley Quinn has rockers that can go forward and backwards, as well as spin 360 degrees, so there's a good amount of articulation there, except for they don't go side to side. And with this figure, I feel like that was important. So as you can see, Harley has a lot of articulation, and bang for buck, even though I kind of wish that there was more articulation in those ankles and that she could look up a bit further, bang for buck, I do think that she has enough articulation for what we're paying for. Switching Harley's hands is actually pretty easy. You You yank her hand off and you got that exposed peg, and you take the new hand and you just pop the peg right into the hole, and voila, a new set of hands. So now that we've put Harley Quinn's articulation through the full gamut, let's find out exactly how she stacks up against some other Harley Quinn action figures. So for my first comparison, I brought in the DC Collectibles New 52 Roller Derby Harley Quinn, and you can see this is going to give you a good idea of the size and scale because she's almost pretty much on par with that one. She's a little bit taller, but they're very much the same scale. You could, if you wanted to, substitute in this Harley Quinn for the Roller Derby one in your photos, and it would look fabulous. Our next comparison will be with the DC Collectibles Arkham Knight Classic Jester Jumpsuit Harley Quinn. Again, they're very comparable in size and scale, and you could substitute one for the other if you really wanted to. Next we have the DC Icons Harley Quinn in the Jester suit, and she's much smaller than the Bombshells Harley Quinn. That was one of the qualms of the DC Icons, is that a lot of people just wish that they were bigger. And here she is standing next to the DC Universe Classics Harley Quinn from the Mad Love 2-pack. You can tell because she doesn't have a blue face. And the Harley Quinn from the Bombshell series is definitely bigger in all ways in comparison to a DC Universe Classics Harley Quinn. So far I'm looking at the Harley Quinn from the Bombshell series and thinking she's the perfect scale for me. She's not too big and she's not too small. So now that we've yoinked Harley out of the packaging and had a nice close-up look at her paint apps, her sculpting, her articulation, and her size comparison, the final question is, do I think it was worth it? Well, my final verdict is yes. I paid $29.99 for her, and I feel like that's exactly what she's worth as far as market value goes. True, this figure could have been painted neater in some places, and there's even some slop in other places, but I don't think that's going to be necessarily what every figure has. And also, I did manage to put a cut in her tummy under her belly button, but that's just me. That's from crunching her up and doing articulation tests. I don't think the average collector is going to mash her up quite the same as I will for the video. If you can snap her up for $29.99, I think that's fair market value. You might even be able to find her for like $19.99, but I do predict that eventually she will go up to around the $60 range. So if you like her, you probably should pick her up sooner than later, because if you hesitate, she's definitely going to go up in price. And with that, I think we're done the video. So thank you so much for taking the time to tune in and watch the video. If you've enjoyed it, found it helpful, useful, insightful, or a reasonable waste of time, please take the time to leave a like on it so I know I'm doing something right. Leave any comments you have down in the comment section below about this figure. I'd love to hear from you. And then finally, if you think you'd like to become a super friend and join the DC squad, just hit the subscribe button. Remember to ding the bell so that you never miss a video. And I'll see you with the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, super friends.